First was United Kingdom. It has evidence-based policy. The United Kingdom's policing model is characterized by strong emphasis of evidence-based policy. This approach relies on data analysis, research, and evaluation to inform policing strategies and tactics. The UK policing models is also shaped by its history of community policing and the importance of building trust between law enforcement and the public. Number two was Russia. Authoritarian policing, Russian policing models is heavily influenced by its authoritarian political system. The police force is often used as a tool for maintaining state control and suppressing dissent. This approach prioritizes national security and public order over individual rights and freedoms. So Russian policing model is also shaped by its history of sovereignty policing, which emphasized strict control and surveillance. Number three was Canada, or community-oriented policing. Canada policing model is characterized by strong emphasis on community-oriented policy. This approach prioritizes building a relationship between law enforcement and the community, with a focus on trust, respect, and the collaboration. Canada policing model is also shaped by its diverse and multicultural society, with a focus on inclusivity and cultural sensitivity. Its key differences first was in terms of political context. The UK policing model is shaped by its democratic system, while Russia is influenced by its authoritarian system. Canada model is characterized by a strong emphasis on community and diversity. Second was their differences in priorities. The UK prioritizes evidence-based policy, while Russia prioritizes national security and public order. And the Canada prioritizes community relationship and trust building. And lastly was in terms of their approaches. The UK approach is data-driven, while the Russia approach is more militarized. Canada approach is collaborative and community-focused. These three countries represent distinct policing models, each shaped by their unique socio-political context. Understanding these differences can provide valuable insight into the complexities of policing and the importance of context in shaping policing strategies.
United Kingdom community policing model, organizational structure and hierarchy policing in UK is regional and decentralized, with 43 territorial police forces with England and Wales, plus separate forces in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Each force is led by a chief constable or commissioner in London and is accountable to a police and crime commissioner or PCC, an elected official. Community engagement strategies based on the Pillian principles, emphasizing policing by consent. Neighborhood policing terms or NPT focus on localized patrol and direct engagement with communities. Also, our regular community forums and public consultations help identify and address local concerns. It also includes the schools and youth outreach programs, promote early crime prevention. In terms of crime prevention and enforcement tactics, it focus on problem-oriented policing, using data and local agent intelligence to address root causes and prioritize the escalation tactics and restorative justice methods, especially for minor and first-time offenses. Also, in addition, emphasize on visible patrols and community reassurance. Criminal investigations are led by specialized units such as CID or Criminal Investigation Department. Russia, state-controlled, centralized policing, organizational structure and hierarchy centralized under the Ministry of Internal Affairs or MVD. Major agencies include Politia, General Law Enforcement, and Rosgvardia, National Guard, heavily militarized, strong integration with intelligence agency like the FSB or Federal Security Service. Also, in terms of community engagement strategies, community engagement is limited and often symbolic. Public councils exist but are typically aligned with state policy. They focus more on control and surveillance than community partnership. Crime prevention and enforcement tactics prevention through control. Heavy surveillance and deterrence-based strategies. Frequent use of stop and search. powers and administrative detention. And enforcement often prioritizes state security over individual rights, particularly with political or protest activity and mass data collection through platforms like SORM or System for Operative Investigative Activities, integration of AI surveillance tools for tracking dissent and criminal activity was the technological integration and innovation.
Canada integrated federal provincial policing model, organizational structure and hierarchy. Policing is multi-jurisdictional. In federal, RCMP or Royal Canadian Mounted Police handles federal law enforcement and contracts with provinces and municipalities. In provincial and municipal, Ontario, Quebec, and some cities have independent forces. Example of it is Toronto Police. Community engagement strategies strong focus on community-based policing, especially in urban and in indigenous areas, and provides programs like community safety officers and RCMP indigenous policing services foster relationships. Also, public engagement through town halls, school visits, and community liaisons and provide active effort toward reconciliation and with indigenous communities through culturally sensitive practices. Crime prevention and enforcement tactics, blend of intelligence-led policing and community-based strategies, emphasizes on collaboration with social services to address root causes of crime. Example is poverty and addiction, and the use of diversion programs, particularly for youth and non-violent offenders.
Summarizing the key aspects of the United Kingdom, Russia, and Canada's policing models. It highlights both similarities and differences across critical dimensions. In terms of policing models, the UK is community-based and decentralized, while the Russia is centralized and has state control. And lastly, the Canada, it integrated federal-provincial. In governance structures, in UK, local forces under elected PCCS, Russia is centralized under Ministry of Internal Affairs, or MBD, while the Canada is mixed, RCMP, federal-provincial plus local forces. In hierarchy, UK is constable to chief constable. The Russia was rigid top-down command, and in Canada, constable to commissioner. In terms of community engagement and public accountability, the UK was strong, based on trust, local presence, and high independent oversight bodies, for example, IPCC. And the Russia was minimal for often symbolic. In public accountability, it is low. State-dominated narrative, and lastly was the community engagement in Canada was moderate to strong. It focused on inclusion and reconciliation. In public accountability, it is moderate to high. Civilian review boards. The key similarities: all three countries use modern technologies, two with different levels of transparency. It has specialized forces or units for specific duties. For example, RCMP in Canada, CID in UK, Rosguardia in Russia. Key differences: community, engagement, and accountability are strongest in the UK and Canada, and weakest in Russia. Surveillance practices are heaviest and least transparent in Russia, with Canada and the UK applying more regulated systems. Enforcement philosophy ranges from preventive UK, Canada to punitive Russia.
Lastly, the Canada about community-oriented policing. The case study was Toronto Police Service Community Policing innovative and objective in field trust and relationship between police and diverse community. While the approach was trained officers and cultural sensitivity, community outreach, and problem solving. The outcome was improved relationship between police and community, increased trust and cooperations. Lesson learned that community-oriented policing can be effective and building trust and improving relationship, but required strong community engagement and cultural sensitivity. Takeaways. Number one, context manner. Policing models must be tailored to the specific context and needs of the community. Number two, evidence-based policing can be effective in reducing crime but requires strong data analysis and collaborations. Strong data analysis and collaborations. Number three, community engagement. Critical is building trust and improving relationship between police and community. Number four, human rights must be respected and promoted in policing practice, regardless of the model used. These case studies illustrate the applications of different policing models in real-world scenarios, highlighting the importance of context, evidence-based approaches, community engagement, and respect for community rights.
And now I am going to answer the question, what characteristic should define an effective policing system model? So enable for us to define an effective policing system model must possess this following characteristic. First, including the community-oriented. The policing system should prioritize building trust and relationship with the community, understanding their needs and addressing their concerns. Problem-solving approach. The policing system should focus on identifying and addressing the root causes of crime and disorder rather than just responding to symptoms. Next was evidence-based practices. The policy system should rely on data-driven approaches, research, and evaluation to inform strategies and tactics. And next was transparency and accountability. The policing system should be transparent in its action and decision, with a clear accountability mechanism to ensure officers are held responsible for their actions. Also, fairness and justice. The policing system should also uphold the principle of fairness, justice, and equality, treating all individuals with dignity and respect. So by understanding the characteristic of an effective policing system model, policing agencies can work towards building trust, reducing crime, and improving public safety while also promoting fairness, justice, and accountability.